Finally, the last note before we get to Alex and a little boxing talk. Got to talk about the hot news in the mill world right now, the PACT Act. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I have been following this. I know there's been a huge push to help veterans who have dealt with toxic exposures. Burn pits gets brought up the most, but there are so many, especially pilots, who are coming down with all sorts of crazy cancers, and it's always, it's like undeniable.
I mean, I have a friend, I think I mentioned it. She's perfectly healthy. She was a college athlete, in great shape. She's battling cancer right now. That was very much just because of the burn pits.
Yes. And
it's so sad.
But it's beyond burn. Like 107 Foundation really educated me on the toxic. There's so many different jobs that are at such high risk and blah, blah, blah. So a lot of veterans have been working so hard, and veterans groups and advocates, to push through a bill to give us better protections and to take care of us when this shit happens. Like,
to allow all of that exposure to whether it's Agent Orange, to nuclear stuff during the Cold War, to burn pits, to say and admit, okay, this is service connected, so you can have these benefits.
And it's insane that they've had to fight for the first place. Anyways.
Right, because the science is just so cut and dry. It's like, this is bad stuff. These people inhaled all this bad stuff. This is why they're sick. You don't have to be a doctor to know that.
Yeah, and like I'm sure like families in Hawaii who have been drinking fuel water for the last year are...
they could tell you all about it.
So anyway, a surprise deal on healthcare and environmental policies announced by Senate Democratic leaders Wednesday afternoon produced an unexpected casualty. The comprehensive toxic exposure legislation veterans advocates expected to pass this week. The promise to address Comprehensive Toxins Act, aka the PACT Act, had been up for a procedural vote in the chamber, and everyone thought it was going to pass. The measure is a culmination of years of work by advocates to improve healthcare and benefits to veterans suffering injuries from burn pit smoke, Agent Orange, and other exposures. It has been widely celebrated as a landmark victory in veteran policy. And this was like from both sides of the fence. The measure passed the Senate by a comfortable 84-14 vote in June and a 342-88 vote in the House 2 weeks ago with significant Republican support.
That's where the twist comes in.
But on Wednesday, Democratic leaders make this other deal that pisses off the other side. And all of a sudden, the vote goes up again, and it doesn't pass this time, basically. So on Wednesday, after technical corrections sent the measure back to the Senate for another procedural vote, 41 Senate Republicans blocked the measure. Republican lawmakers who had previously voted against the measure, including Senator Pat Toomey, reiterated objections to how the money connected to the measure, about $300 billion over 10 years, would be accounted for in the regular appropriations process. And I'm going to level with you right now. I've already said about 70 words in this story that I'm reading them competently. I don't know what the fuck any of this means.
So basically, they went back into the PACT Act, and they changed some technicalities that these Republicans are saying like, whoa, that wasn't there the first time. Now we don't agree as much. Because I think what people forget is obviously that the part about veterans is at the forefront and all over the news. But anytime any sort of legislation goes through Washington, they pack in all these other...
Oh, you can get a bill about like animal safety, and dog-eared in the very back will be like, and by the way, I get 700 treadmills in my house. Like, you're like, what? This does have to do with anything. But yes, all sorts of crazy shit gets put in. But in this particular case, the way I was trying to understand it, I was trying to just look at this as objectively as possible. It wasn't anything that crazy that really should have caused the block. And people are saying like the block came just as Democratic leaders announced plans for a budget reconciliation measure. And in response to this measure, the GOP caucus was pledging to oppose and increase efforts to snarl normal business in the chamber. So everyone's saying they're just doing this it's a political move that they're just doing to kind of...
And I think it's important to note, like they said here, they gave no comment as to the reasons behind the surprise move, so nobody fully knows. I'm sure people...
But I mean, Toomey spoke many of them did. I was kind of confused by that because many did give comment on here's, they put this stuff in there. But when you looked at the stuff, it was like, well...
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense why they would block it then. And then I think, continue on with the story here, why it's so important is because we look at the calendar and what happens.
The Senate is scheduled to go on a month-long recess on August 5th, and advocates had hoped to pass the PACT Act on the president's desk before then. So now this is going to be put off even further. And for a lot of these veterans, I don't know if you noticed, but the cancer rates are horrifying, and these veterans need help now, and their families need help like yesterday. And that timeline appears out of reach now. If it became law, 1 in 5 living American veterans could benefit from the PACT Act. For veterans of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, the bills would establish a presumption of service connection for 23 respiratory illnesses and cancers related to smoke from the burn pits used extensively in those war zones. And so one other thing, though, like I was trying my best to like look at this and understand it and sort it out, because I don't know all the nuances of our government and like the way shit works like I should. I only do a government podcast. Why the fuck would I know? But I also heard from like other groups, like Hunter 7 Foundation had some reservations with this bill. They said, in reality, and from a medical perspective, we're disappointed in the lack of actual life-saving measures and methods that would be enacted by this bill. We were able to confirm no medical or subject matter experts were included in the formation of this bill. We also requested medical diagnosis and included cancers be reevaluated by the level of more blah, blah, blah. Basically, they're coming at it from a medical standpoint. They said in the 150-page bill, here's the word compensation was used 20 times, benefit 39 times, presumptive 60 times, screening 10 times, but prevention was used 0 times. And their biggest thing is, yes, like this bill will definitely help, but it's missing some really huge key parts, which is, and veterans were commenting on this saying, yes, I told them like I'm not feeling right, blah, 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 but I still don't qualify to get the screening that would tell me if I have cancer or not.
Right.
And a lot of times catching it early, catching it, getting the vibe of it before, Katie doctor, getting the vibe of a cancer before it really
like
comes
you thinking
strong,
maybe I got some cancer going on
is super important. So they said the medical, moral, and ethics surrounding this bill are painful for us. We need early identification of cancers and cancer screenings, not just within the VA, but overall, and this bill does not do that. And I'm just trying to give different viewpoints on this as I try and understand it. So even if the bill has good intentions, it's missing, so I don't know, some key things. But at the same time, so many experts and veterans groups with the best intentions worked so hard on this that I do imagine there is a lot of good to it.
No, there's absolutely a lot of good, because I do think it's almost like kind of 2 parts. And this is like the first major part and a major win. Like, hey, let's just get all the people that we know already have these cancers and have these illnesses. Let's say that it's tied to all of this exposure and get them the benefits they deserve. And then there's probably, unfortunately, going to have to be additional legislation to say, all right, now all those other people who served, as an example, in the post 9/11 conflicts, let's preventatively screen them to understand if they might be exposed to these things and have cancer down the line. It just sucks that it just wasn't all rolled into one, but I don't want to lose the momentum and all the great work that these people have done to this point.
So Jon Stewart, who has been tireless for post 9/11 first responders down at Ground Zero and for veterans, he tweeted this out. For veterans and their families and caregivers who will bear the brunt of this nonsense, this isn't over. We will never stop the fight until this country honors its promise to you. $6 trillion for war. No guidelines or oversight, but for veteran health care, let's play budget gimmick games. We live in the upside down. And he's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Republicans and Democrats have no problem spending money on that fucking quagmire, to be honest with you, a worthless, crazy, horrible quagmire. Trillions. But when it comes time to take care of the people they sent into that quagmire, now they want to nitpick and blah, 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 when it's so clearly for political reasons.
Yes.
It's so clearly. And a lot of these guys who voted no, a lot of these people who voted no, like to me, you go to his Twitter and the background is him meeting with the troops. And it's like and I know both sides do it. You all want to use us to look good and to lift yourself up. But when it comes down to it, we're fucking nothing to you but a pawn.
Yeah, everybody says like, oh, well, veterans, that's a pretty bipartisan issue. And everybody loves our veterans. Everybody loves our military. Well, put your money where your mouth is. Right?
Yeah.
Stop playing these stupid games.
We fight your wars and we get you elected, and then you don't stand up for us.
Everybody likes to use them during, election season and to say like, hey, look at all the good work I'm doing. Great, awesome. but do it when it matters.
Do it when it matters.
Do it when it matters.
Yeah, a lot of people are calling bullshit on the reasoning. I'm not come at me if I'm I don't know. I'm being honest. I'm trying my best to understand it, but from everything I was looking at today, it does look like this is just bullshit political move, which sucks for so many people who were really relying on some relief. Finally, his final tweet was, "Not one of these stab vets in the back senators should get to leave for the summer till this shit is fixed. No one." And I agree. Okay, you don't like the extra things in it or whatever, you don't like that, then you are not leaving for your nice little summer vacations until you sit down with the other side and you hash it out, and you do not leave until you figure this shit the fuck out. Figure it out. I don't know why that is so hard to do. I know they're not going to do it.
No, they're not. It's not going to make this August 5th deadline, unfortunately.
But I would be delightfully surprised if you did. Could you?
Yeah, maybe.
Could you do it for
Think
CBT?
about it. Do it for us.
Come on.
Hey, why not?